Hi, good afternoon and good evening. This is Jim Gerson from CareStack. You're in the right place. I know everybody's here to learn from Dr. Catherine Alderman, and we're thrilled to have this program on best methods to create perfect, profitable schedules in a non-perfect world, benefiting the team, dentists, and avoiding burnouts. I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself. We're thrilled to have you tonight.
And thank you so much for inviting me. I do love cloud-based softwares. And the reason I met Jim is actually through what they offer for training. And during the difficult times when it's really difficult to find people and train, CareStack Academy offers a lot of resources to train people and make it easy. So because of that, it's really great to get to know CareStack because of the options they offer to make everything easier. So I am Dr. Catherine Alderman. I have a multi-location practice, and I have helped many dental professionals to create a perfect schedule in the non-perfect world, regardless of the size of an office. And today, I will share what strategies with you. I will show you what you can do starting tomorrow to have a schedule that prioritizes well-being of a dentist, hygienist, dental assistants, your business team, and for everybody to have a better experience while they're at work, leaving that energy to live our best lives after we leave the office. And ultimately preventing a burnout that sometimes associated with being in a dental profession. So I will give you the strategies. Before I give you the strategies, I have a story for you. This presentation is approved by hygienists and dentists. To practice and prepare for this day, I have given it to multiple hygienists and they have proven it. So before I give you the strategies that you can implement tomorrow and take it back to your office so you have ultimately a better life without a burnout and your office still remains profitable and can pay more to hygienists, can pay more to clinical assistants, to business team, and adjust to the higher cost of labor. Yes, we can be profitable. We can do that without burnout as a team. There are strategies. But before I tell you the strategies, I want to share a story. Before I became a dentist, my husband used to be a dentist. And he was an clinically exceptionally good dentist. He was so exceptionally great that even when he was working at freakishly fast speed, he remained his high clinical quality. And because of that, everybody around him used to call him Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's was a sandwich shop that would deliver sandwiches freakishly fast. So we used to call him Jimmy John's, and he loved it. I have to show you a picture of my husband. He was just this powerful, just a very confident dentist that remained an athlete even after he finished college, and he was all-American wrestler in college. So he was an athlete and remained to be an athlete after he finished his wrestling career. So he was almost kind of like an athlete going at a high speed and doing it all and just being super profitable, having a high case acceptance, and really having just been what we consider one of the most successful dentists I will ever know in my life. And then one day he woke up sick and he couldn't go to work. And he couldn't go to work the next day and the next day and the next day. And when he finally could come back to work, he could barely do hygiene checks. He couldn't be the Jimmy John's anymore. And what was really sad for me as a woman is that he could not be there for our kids because he was so sick. So this was a daddy-daughter dance when he was really sick. And I know that he had to go to the back of the room and take multiple breaks just to have a dance with one of his daughters. At that moment, I knew I have to do something different. I have to create strategies. I have to figure out how to be profitable with prioritizing well-being of me, well-being of my other dentist, hygienist, clinical assistants, and everybody in the office. So we would have the energy to live our best lives. We would remain from feeling burned out. And ultimately, we would avoid being sick due to work. And today I will share those strategies with you. That was 7 years ago. And it was 7 years, pandemic happened. And after the pandemic, we had more challenges that happened. The cost of running a business is higher, finding qualified people is higher, marketing cost is higher due to competition. And while the cost and overhead of running a dental clinics are higher, insurance prices remain the same. So I'm not going to be talking today about becoming a fee-for-service practice. Today, I will give you strategies to really remain profitable in a non-perfect world, understanding that it's never perfect. It will never be perfect. And it doesn't matter whether we have a pre-pandemic, pandemic, or after the pandemic challenges. It's really the circumstances just changing. But as a business and as a dental professionals, we always have some challenges. And we all want a perfect schedule, regardless of our situation or our circumstances, and regardless of regardless of the challenges, regardless of a timeline, we all want it because we all understand from the dentist perspective and a hygienist perspective, we want to avoid burnout. From a team management view, we understand that when we have a schedule that is not perfect, it's very stressful. We tend to make mistakes. From a dental assistant view, we understand that we don't want to be exhausted at the end of the day, and we really want to maintain that energy after we leave the office. And also from the patient view, we understand that patients will accept treatment if they perceive us that we care about them. But when we have a schedule that is less than perfect, or maybe we have too busy of a schedule, patients will perceive that we not as caring. They cannot trust us as much, and our case acceptance goes down. So patients want that quality care, and everybody on a team wants that quality care. And today we're going to talk about creating that perfect schedule that we can basically please the patients, please the dentist, please administrative team, please a clinical team, and ultimately remain profitable. Is it possible? Absolutely it is. In the last 7 years, since my husband been sick, and my husband never came back to dentistry, we have been able to create something really absolutely unbelievable. We have been able to create those perfect schedules, remaining cash flow and profitable in every location, regardless its size. And most of the time, this is not all the dentists. I just love this picture. All of us dentists can go home and be moms, be wives, and they're healthy, strong, and happy. So how do we do that? Let's get to it. Number one, let's go through the must. There has to be must of how to create a perfect schedule. And I will go through the musts first, and then I will show you in examples. What is a must? More is not better. More appointments does not mean better. Actually, earlier today, when I asked my clinical assistants, hey, what do you think when you have a lot of appointments on a schedule? They told me that they felt like in that meme that I showed a few slides before, that they feel exhausted at the end of the day. Everybody feels exhausted. The more appointments we have on a schedule, the harder it is on everybody. Number two, we have to know our overhead and profitability. We have to know, before we start creating a perfect schedule, we have to know what does it take for us to be profitable? What is our overhead? And what do we need to get there to be profitable? We also have to know our top procedures. I created the top procedures by color coding, and this would surprise you that a lot of times our top procedures is maybe not what our team thinks. For example, scaling and root planning with a quadrant dentistry is very profitable, but the team may think that putting a crown on a schedule is very profitable. But if you take a PPO insurance, crown versus you will take a quadrant dentistry with a lot of fillings combined with a scale and root planning, it becomes a very profitable procedure. This is just an example. Or for example, if we do a root canal and a build up on a crown, this is a lot more profitable than doing maybe one crown or maybe even two crowns using PPO plans. So people have to understand, people on a team have to understand what does a profitable procedures look like, and they have to know what that list is made of. Then we have to know how to bunch procedures. Patients are busy those days. They don't want to come in multiple times. And the best way to commit patients to schedule is to bunch procedures. We have seen that the offices that bunch procedures and put a lot of procedures together in one appointment tend to be a lot more profitable, not at the end of a month compared to the office that schedules many appointments and does a little bit at one appointment. So knowing how to bunch procedures is very important. And offering a block schedule, we have to have a block schedule, but this will surprise you. We have to know how to do the block schedule, but we have to know how to be flexible. A lot of times if you have a team and they're doing a block schedule and they don't know how to be flexible. So we have to teach our team how to be flexible. And I will have slides to show it to you. And then keep blocks open to take advantage of being motivated and prevent competing with life. What it means that when we're doing a block schedule, and it's maybe very uncomfortable for the dentist or scheduling team especially to see a hole next week. I want that hole. I want that block left alone 24 to 48 hours before the appointment. And here's why. My team is going to do a fabulous job on educating a patient, engaging, motivating. That patient will be very motivated to schedule that appointment. My financial team will schedule them, go through finances, and present finances, even more motivating them to schedule that needed treatment. And if I don't have blocks available, if the patient is scheduled 2 or 3 or 4 weeks away, life will happen. I always say I'm not competing with other dentists. I do not compete with other dentists. I compete with Disney Cruise. I compete with car lots. I compete with veterinarian bills, sick kids, college bills. I compete with life. I compete with life. So I always say I want these patients to be scheduled in 7 to 10 days. So we have to have those blocks open. And we also have to have the team knowing how to be flexible. And what it means that if I have a less ideal schedule next week and somebody's coming with 10 veneers, we're going to make that schedule looking a lot better next week. So, and the team has to know how to do that and be comfortable to do that and understand that we have to do that. And then finally, fewer and longer is better. Again, fewer and longer appointments and room to see consults on new patients, because new patients, when a new patient wants to come and see us, usually they want to come in on 7 to 10 business days. And if they don't see us in 7 to 10 business days, they will go somewhere else. And that's where a lot of no-shows from new patients can happen, because they're simply called somebody else and somebody else was able to get them in sooner. So now,
real quick, just before we move on, there's some questions coming in. I want to encourage people. We're going to have like 8 or 9 minutes at the end of the program to answer questions. So I'll monitor the Q&A. Please use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your panel. And then also someone asked about, they wanted that information. Dr. Alderman's going to have her email address at the end of the program. So if you want to reach out to her and receive that graphic or any of the information, that's the best way to get a hold of her. Sorry to interrupt.
Please email me. I'm an email person. So please email me, because I won't be able to cover everything today. So if you want any materials I teach my team or how I mentor my team, please email me and I will give you details. So let's talk about flexibility. This is pre-blocked schedule for one of my doctors. If you look what I talk about flexibility, if you look at it, I have blocks, and blocks are color coordinated, and they actually have a guidance for my scheduling team, my business team, on what should go in. For example, this is crown plus fillings. This is 60 minutes, and in was 60 minutes. This is very important to understand that we are short on hygiene, just like the rest of the country. So we have to build those hygiene appointments in a doctor's schedule as well, to accommodate overflow and to accommodate patients from losing them. So 60 minutes block we use for, maybe it's an operative, or maybe it's a two prophies, or maybe it's a new patient, or maybe it's an all-on-4 consult, or maybe it's a consult for clear braces, or maybe it's a consult for cosmetic veneers or cosmetic work. So was orange 60 minutes blocks, we use it for procedures that need 60 minutes. Again, we communicate and our team knows what can happen in that 60 minutes. And then we use a lot of quadrant dentistry. Again, we have to specify what quadrant dentistry means, because if our team maybe is not very experienced in chair side, they don't understand what quadrant dentistry means. So we guide them by saying it's 4, 5, all plus fillings. And again, it's on and on. We alternate. There is a few things that I want to pay attention here, that we alternate our lunch breaks between all hygienists, all dentists. We really have not had we never close an office for an hour, because we want to accommodate patients coming in during their lunch breaks. So we want to accommodate those patients, and we always want the phone calls answered. So team alternates the lunch breaks, and they alternate who is going to be seeing patients. It works really well. So these blocks, let's talk about flexibility. And I want to make sure we understand what flexibility means. For example, this is a multiple crowns. Well, of course, if I have a patient that is coming in for 5 to 6 crowns, this time slot is not enough. They may need 2.5 hours. They will be moving this block away and extending this to 2.5 hours. The same, for example, they may need a quadrant dentistry plus a crown, and they may take this block and they will move away and take all of this time to do that, they need the time for that more dentistry. But I don't really want to put a long appointments on a schedule, because I feel it leads to waste of time. So I would rather do this, and for team to move a block or rearrange the schedule to be flexible and accommodate for those higher end cases that need a lot more work. Saying that, let me see. So that's really, let's go to the next slide. This is a slide I would like to bring. This is how it looks for one dentist and one hygienist. This is actually one of my most profitable offices. You will not believe it, but this is one of my most profitable offices. And I will explain why. You guys will see why later. I will explain why. But this is a really profitable dentist. She's really good about bunching appointments. She's really good about maximizing what goes on a schedule. Sometimes she has maybe 4 to 5 appointments on her side, and her hygienist always have a scale and route planning and a new patient in the morning, and then maybe recalls in the afternoon, and then she flips. There would be recalls and peri-maintenances in the morning, and then a new patient and a scale and route planning in the afternoon. The reason we want to do that, because if we just have hygienists doing profits all day, we're not going to be profitable. So they have to have enough time for new patients, to provide their education, engage patients, empower, and really help us to have that high case acceptance, so that new patients from her chair become patients in an operative column, accepting treatment and ready to do as much treatment as possible in one appointment. So this is a very profitable schedule. So this is a schedule where I have multiple providers. I always joke, if we have any more providers than that, I'm building another location, because it's really, really tough to have that many providers in the office. This is the maximum number of providers I would put in one office in one location. Any more, it becomes really noisy, really loud. And I still have days where I have more providers in one office, but we really try to limit those days. And again, when that happens and when we outgrow one location, we decide, okay, do we need to drop off some plans? Do we need to see fewer patients, or do we need to build a location? But this is really a schedule, again, of a providers that we have 2 dentists on this side, and then we have 3 hygienists. We can see all hygienists alternate the skeleton root plan and new patients. And when we have kids, we just see kids. Seeing kids is actually very profitable if they see enough kids and if their appointment is maximized. So this is a hygiene schedule, and we ask hygienists not to break those blocks and follow those blocks. Again, because of a hygiene shortage, we may be short, and maybe some of the hygiene overflow will go into doctor columns, into orange appointments, and maybe we will accommodate 2 or even 3 cleanings working with a clinical assistant to make sure we still remains at high quality of care, but we work with an assistant using Isolite and really trying to accommodate those hygiene patients. Again, flexibility is very important because it doesn't mean we will follow these exact blocks. This doctor may end up having 4 appointments on a schedule. This doctor may end up having 6 appointments on a schedule. But again, the goal is always keeping in mind, hey, well-being of a team, can we get through this day? Can we be profitable? And do we have enough time for hygiene checks? This is another schedule, and I want to talk about hygiene shortage because, again, this is a 2 doctors' office and 2 hygienists. That's not enough. We need more hygiene. We just hired 2 hygienists a few days ago, but we need more hygiene. We are short on hygiene just like everybody else. And I want to say that there are days when we take this 80-minute block and we will put 3 or 4 hygiene appointments in. And yes, it's not the best day because obviously we need to work a little harder to see that many patients, but we strategically do it in a certain spots. We would not do it all day long. And because of that, we still keep well-being of a dentist, assistants in mind, and yet we remain to be profitable because we accommodate patients, but yet we still end up having a profitable schedule at the end of the day. And this is actually my schedule next week. You can see that I'm doing a lot of root canals and a crown and a build up all in one appointment. And I really will end up probably having all root canals. And then I will have 1 hygienist. It will be a very profitable day. It will be a very easy day, but it will be a very profitable day having those blocks and having a longer blocks to do a lot of root canals or, which we consider special, which we consider kind of a special high-end profitable procedures. But again, I wanted to show it to you because maybe there are dentists here that love to do root canals, or maybe they love to do dentures, and they just need to know what is the top profitable procedures and schedule the day around those procedures, and really and you can have your perfect schedules that you will love every day. So that's So we talked about what I just described is a quality over quantity approach. Because when we talk about quality of your schedule over quantity, and it's a quality of your schedule, when we start prioritizing quality over quantity approach, you actually will end up being profitable without burnout to the dentist and teams. Besides that, we will create a better experience for dentists and teams, lead to higher job satisfaction. We actually will provide a better patient experience, higher case acceptance, and for sure you will become more profitable without needing to overschedule. And because we will, you will end up collecting more per patient while seeing fewer patients. I don't want to say that it is about a balance. It really doesn't matter how big or how young your location is. We have been using the same strategies in a startup that is maybe just I have a startups that are only about a year old. I have a startups that 2-year-old and 3-year-olds. I have offices at 10 years old and plus, and same strategies work at every office, regardless of its size. So it is about the balance. It's all about keeping those must-and checks and starting building new schedule around it. Before I go through the areas that we need to pay attention before you can create a perfect scheduling, I think Jim has a question for you. And I want to ask that question because really, we can't really say, we want to have a perfect schedule and let's create it. There is some supporting systems we have to realize have to be the top notch. And an example that I showed you of one single dentist with a one hygienist being the most profitable and being very profitable is a great example of that. So,
Dr. Catherine, do you want me to go ahead and push the case acceptance poll?
Yeah, do that right now. I think it gives a moment.
And it's great. We got questions coming in. And so we're going to put them in a parking lot. We've got about 20 minutes left of the presentation. And then Dr. Alderman is going to answer your questions. So keep them coming, please. So I just pushed the poll out. Again, you're totally anonymous. Your cameras are on. No one knows who you are doing this poll. I think candor is really important. And so please, we would love to get an understanding of what the audience responds to this question.
And thank you for sharing those answers. Case acceptance is really, I always say case acceptance is like an art of communication. And once we have a high case acceptance, we really can start building that perfect schedule and pick and choose what we do and how we do it. So case acceptance is really important for the success of a practice.
So we're about like a minute into this poll here. Dr. Catherine, 44% of the audience says that their acceptance out of 100 patients is 76 or more, which is great.
Great.
36% fall between 51 and 76%. 14% or less than 50 out of 100 would say yes. And then there's that group that they don't know. They either aren't measuring it or not sure how to measure it.
Yeah, that's common. So now we know the importance of case acceptance. We took a moment and let's what are the supporting systems that let's say we decided to make a perfect schedule and we say, okay, starting tomorrow, if I want to create a perfect schedule. And yes, number one, we create a block scheduling, we start creating a block scheduling and we're trying to design what is our ideal day looks like. But then we have to understand that the entire team needs to understand why. So we have to have the entire team involvement. If we have the entire team involvement, understanding how it's going to benefit them, it's a lot easier to get them on board. And we also have to know that they have to be flexible. They have to know the must and they have to be flexible. And that's where you can email me and I will share all the, I have actually 2-page checklists that they have to know how to create a perfect schedule. And then collections and accounts, it should be at a high, because if we don't have a high accounts, if we don't have a high collections and accounts receivables, it's really difficult to say, hey, I'm going to create a perfect profitable schedule. So it's very important to make sure that your collections and accounts receivables at its highest. And drop and roll, not low pain insurance plans. I know some dentists will ask, yes, when you get to the point where you have a high case acceptance, you have a high collection, your team is knowing how to make a perfect scheduling, and you have you may decide to draw up low pain insurance plans. And another thing, number 3, financial presentations with conference. We can be fabulous educators in a clinical part. We can engage, inspire, motivate, but then if our patients go up front and the financial presentations are not given with a conference, we will lose that case. That patient does not schedule a bigger case or commit to the treatment. So that's very important. And another one, preventing no-shows and last-minute cancellations. It has to be target under 2%. And the reason is if we create on that perfect schedule with 4 to 6 appointments per day, and if one patient no-shows, we are not profitable that day. We are negatives. So that's really important to understand that no-shows and last-minute cancellations have to be under control. And a high case acceptance as a team, congrats to everybody that has a high case acceptance. That's really great. I believe that high case acceptance is a success to actually creating and allowing yourself to be at a place when you can create a perfect schedule. And then another one, very important, organizing hygiene department to leverage the intelligence. Hygienists, I love you. And I always say hygienists are super intelligent. Their skills need to be used as a period-therapist and patient educators. I love working with my hygienist. I work with many other hygienists, and I love training hygienists to be an advanced therapist and for them to become my partner in educating patients, inspiring, engaging in their treatment, and for patients to say yes to treatment after they spend time with me and a hygienist. So leveraging hygiene department is very important because they're super smart. And then finally, what we have to do, actually we have to do two more things: communication between clinical and a business team, what we call in a passing over steps. This is a huge, I have seen the difference of 20 to 30,000 per month in the offices with a great communication versus not a great communication. What it means that we have to tell a patient how many appointments they need, and then we have to pass them over to financial team to make sure that that transition is seamless and a communication is effective in making sure the patient has just absolutely smooth experience scheduling, discussing finances, and what we call a passing over steps. That way we have that patient in the office and talking about the next appointment, giving them the fee for the next appointment, and also start talking about preventing with no-shows and last-minute cancellations. We actually charge patients and let them know right away the value of keeping their appointment. So we start educating patients, and we're not shy at all to tell them about the value of his appointments, that the doctor will be working just with you, the hygienist will be working just with you. And because of that, we need to have that passing over steps to communicate the cost, to communicate number of appointments, to schedule, and to talk about no-show and a cancellation, and actually charging to reserve that appointment. And finally, onboarding, initial and continuous training of business teams. And the reason I say that because as I shared my story, before the pandemic, during pandemic, after pandemic, there is always a change. The scheduling requires different needs based on what's happening in our world. And it's important to onboard people that just join us to educate them, but it's also important to talk to the team about scheduling and revisiting the scheduling often and adjusting to it as a team. So the things that I discussed will allow you to create that perfect scheduling, prioritizing the quality of your schedule over quantity approach. And then I want to talk about little bit about training people. I spend a lot of time working with my business teams. I actually have a fabulous program where I put them through training, and I spend a lot of time training business teams. I know that if business teams are not trained on understanding what does it mean to have a quality over quantity approach, they will just put anything in to keep the schedule busy. So when a team joins me, when anybody on the business teams join us, we put them through a very strong program, and we train them as a business mind people to understand the importance of creating that perfect schedule in a non-perfect world and actually how to do it. And I always remind them that when you do that, you're actually doing it for yourself as well. And this is very important to understand for them, because a lot of them don't understand it, that we have to create a schedule for our teams first. And sometimes when I tell it to my new people, they think that I don't care about patients. And I say, oh, no, I care about patients a lot. I love patients. That's why I created all these multiple locations. But you have to understand that if you create a perfect schedule and that is catering to you, to hygienist, to the dentist, we all will be able to provide a fabulous care that patient will feel really comfortable at. So for us to provide that exceptional care, high quality care, and just really enjoy what we're doing, creating that perfect scheduling has to be done with the teams in mind first. And if our teams are happy, I always say, if mama is happy, everybody's going to be happy. I always tell them, if you're, and we work with a lot of moms, we work with a lot of females. So I always say, I have to keep all the mamas happy, because if you guys happy, patients will be very happy. And as a business, we will be very profitable as well.
Well put. I have this, your last poll, Dr. Alderman, on training. Is this an appropriate time to go ahead and?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay. So this is related to training specific to the schedule. And hopefully it launched on your end here. And if you want to keep going, I'll let it sit out there for about a minute. I don't want to interrupt you. We've got about, this is your 10-minute warning, Dr. Catherine.
Perfect. And I'm almost done. So how do we do that? Now we know what the block scheduling looks like to create a perfect scheduling. We went through musts. We went through the most important musts. What does it feel like when the patient calls my office? What does it feel like? What does my team will do? Number one, obviously we have to have a block scheduling completed, and we do it a year ahead. And the business has to get a new patient or anybody with a higher end, the profitable procedures in a 7 to 10 days. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, but they have to get it. They have to understand the urgency of keeping those blocks open so we can get profitable procedures in. And when a patient comes in for an appointment, hygienist and a doctor work together, and they work together to make sure that we engage, motivate, and educate patients. This is where hygienist has a pivotal role in success of assurance that we have a high case acceptance and those patients do end up coming back on the operative side. After hygienist and doctor educate the patient and present the treatment together, dentist will summarize the treatment and states number of appointments needed to complete the treatment. This is actually really important. It really feels very intimidating to say, Sally, I can fix your treatment in 4 appointments, but it's really important because patients don't understand. So it kind of brings them home and helps them to finalize and realize how many appointments they need. And this is where the passing over happens. Now, hygienist or dental assistant will take that patient up front, and they will complete financial arrangements. As they will go through the financial arrangements, they will schedule all of the appointments, and the financial team will be flexible with blocks because, again, flexibility is very important. We want to schedule while the motivation is high. We do ask to prepay, to reserve a bigger appointments, and then we have an appointment card that has that message, and we verbally say it as well, because it's a lot easier to tell a patient right there than to tell them when they're trying to call and cancel. And
well put. Can I share real quick the results of the training poll?
Great job. Continually training is offered.
But we have, this is the one that's kind of a surprise when we were putting this together. 36% of the audience said they never train on the schedule in the office. So that's the biggest constituency here. 31% said when they start the practice, 20% continual, and about 36% said never.
Yeah, the best is to have it continual because, again, things change. There is always a challenge. There is always a challenge. And I always say the process that I just showed you, how we create that block scheduling and how we work as a team and have everybody involved in the team creating that perfect scheduling. We repeat it over and over and over. There is a wonderful book, Atomic Habits, and I just made it myself. I added for dental professionals. So when I train and mentor my teams, or any dental professionals, I talk about atomic habits and importance of repeating stuff over and over and over. Consistency is the key to success. And then, so in conclusion, we talked about creating a perfect schedule. We talked about, I described what are the musts. I showed you the strategy. I showed you how to add it on a schedule. I kind of showed you steps of what it feels like to be a patient in my office or any of the offices I work with, and how we guide that patient from the moment they make a phone call to the moment they schedule in their appointment, and how we make sure that all systems in between support and creating that perfect schedule. So we're not just dreaming, we're actually working at it, and we're actually doing it. And again, I have seen it over the years. That doing it, we have more satisfied team members that don't feel burned out and not afraid to come to work. We have more loyal patients, and that's what we'll keep adding locations, and we don't have a burnout among dentists. We don't really, of course, they may have a days where they feel like they're burned out, and that's where we send them on vacation or ask them to take longer weekend. But overall, my dentists don't feel burned out. They all look beautiful, great, and or handsome in guys' situation, and again, and we are remaining profitable. And I wish that for you, because I wish I knew how to do this years ago, and I wish I knew how to do that, how to make an office, regardless of a size, small or big, to be profitable without losing my husband to the health problems associated with being burned out, tired, and just getting sick from going at the speed of Jimmy John's. So because I know now what to do, I want to share it with you. And I have this meme. I love this meme. I love it.
I feel fantastic.
I love. So if you feel like this, if you feel like 90, but you want to feel like 30, just looking at your schedule and start looking at your schedule and creating that schedule to support your goal of feeling good and for your team not to feel burned out while you remain profitable. Focusing on a perfect schedule is a great place to start. And that's how you will become successful. And everybody defines success differently. But in this case, we define success of becoming profitable without a burned out. And if you have any questions, I have been mentoring for years. And if you have any questions, you can find me on the social platforms, or you can visit me at progressivedentalmentor.com or email me at progressivedentalmentor@gmail.com. And that's all I have for today.
Dr. Alderman, leave that slide back up with your contact information, please.
Okay, perfect.
You're too fast there. You're the Jimmy Johns of advancing the slide there.
Well, I'm also, I'm a really technical girl too. So I love technology.
You've got some great questions here. So I'm gonna pose these to you. And then I want to encourage everybody, to ask your questions here. And I know you want that CE code. Okay. I'm going to give that to you, but let's make sure we answer these questions first. So from Chung in our audience, I've been open for about 7 months. I'm starting to see 6-month recall patients. At what point should I bring on a hygienist? And should I start with a part-time hygienist?
Great question. I have the same situation. And what you should do, you should start scheduling with 6 months recall in a hygiene column. So you should start scheduling with 6 months recalls. You can choose Monday or Wednesday, and you can start scheduling all with recall patients, but please still keep a block for a new patient or maybe skeleton root planning, so your hygienist will have those blocks built in. And then you can bring a hygienist. You can bring a hygienist as soon as you see that your schedule is predominantly becoming a hygiene. That it's time to start scheduling in a separate column and start looking for a hygienist to bring on team. So don't be afraid to bring a hygienist.
Great, thank you. From Roy in our audience, and I think Roy was referencing when you were kind of showing your schedule earlier. His questions are dentists working multiple chairs in your practice? And Dr. Alderman, I realized we didn't do this at the beginning, but can you just take 30 or 45 seconds and tell people about your business? You mentioned multiple locations. I think that's important to kind of just share with the audience, what your clinical footprint looks like.
Clinical footprint looks like they all have a main column and they have a second column that all the emergencies, crown seats, or maybe shorter consults will go in. So what you saw pre-blocked schedule, but the real schedule will have a second column as well. But no, they do not work out of 2-3 rooms. We can do it, but that's not our model. We don't like working out of 2-3 rooms with the teams that we have. So that's not our business model.
So I know you're very humble, but tell everyone what your business looks like, just so they get an understanding of when you talk about these different locations. I think it's important. My fault for not starting out with that at the beginning.
I have a multi-locations. I have 7 locations right now. I'm going to add in more locations. And some of the locations have maybe 1 doctor or 2 doctors, or even sometimes 3 doctors. But all the locations are very busy, and we really have a high case acceptance, and we really have to limit how many new patients we see at this point, just because of high quality care that they provide. But again, that's really in a nutshell. And all the locations are startups. Every single locations was designed from there was no patients on a day before we opened the doors.
From the ground up, totally get it. Okay, a couple more questions and then we'll get to the code. From Tabitha, do the new patient appointments need to be scheduled with hygiene, especially if it's been several years since they've seen a dentist?
Absolutely. For us, absolutely. And so, because of a hygiene shortage, our dentists see new patients as well, but every single doctor that I work with will agree that they want a hygienist to see that new patient first. But again, if we don't have availability on a schedule, we don't want the patient to wait for a hygienist. So we will schedule them with a doctor in that 1-hour slot, 1-hour appointment, and that patient will see doctor during that time. And sometimes we may even bring that patient for an emergency care first, if we feel that the patient has not been in a long time and there is an emergency priority, we may bring them for an emergency care first. So again, it's about being flexible and understanding that we have to be flexible. And most importantly, we have to get patient in 7 to 10 days. And if we cannot accommodate it in one location, we will send them to another location.
Thank you. This is a good question. I mean, if there's one pearl or one change that a practice can make that they can implement tomorrow that they take away from your program today, what would you recommend is that one change or one thing they would implement?
Number 1, I would say talk to your team. I would actually sit down with my team and say, hey, I've been to this presentation on creating a perfect scheduling, and it makes so much sense. Does anybody feel tired? And get a team engaged and saying, hey, can we create a perfect schedule together? That's one thing I would do. I would always go to my team, and actually my team helped me to create that perfect schedule, and my team always helps me to modify it and talk about it. So I would actually, the best thing I would do, go back to my team and say, hey, does anybody feel as tired as I am? Can we do it?
Well put.
And that's what I did. That's what I did. When my husband got sick, I went back to my assistant and said, hey, I feel tired. I feel overwhelmed. And she said, you're not alone, me too. I love you, but God, every day I want to leave you and not to come back to you. Because I was also working at Jimmy John's speed, not as fast as my husband was, but I used to work out of 3-4 rooms doing multiple hygiene checks. So I used to do that. So when my husband got really, really sick, I thought, number 1, now I have to take care of kids, always multi-locations, and I just can't keep doing it. I just have to stop. So that's what I did. My pearl is I took my best clinical assistant and I said, help me out. And she said, and it felt like she went through, it felt like the curtains went down. And she said, you do need help. And I'm here to help you. So my pearl, talk to your team, and maybe don't get them all of them together because it can become too like a complaining session, but I would probably take some of my team members that I trust the most, like my dental assistant, and say, hey, I cannot do it. You cannot do it. Can we start talking about it? Can we do it together?
Well put. Such an engaging program. This is the last question that I have, and then we're going to get to the code. I know people are going to be beating down my door if I don't give them their CE code, right? So Again, from Chung. So Chung, you get a gold star for asking 2 questions today. What is your PPO and fee-for-service makeup? For an office with a majority of patients on PPO, will this quality over quantity approach work out? Many
Yes.
PPO offices operate in at least 2 doctor columns.
Yes, all of the offices accept PPO, but we don't accept every single PPO. So we accept, obviously you have to decide which low plans you have to drop, or which plans make no sense, including Medicaid, including low insurance plans. So we keep nice insurance plans. We do live in Nebraska. The office is in Nebraska, so we don't have HMOs, we only have PPOs, and the PPO plans that we accept, they're not the greatest. Of course, I would say we're about 70-30, 75-25, depending on location and depending where location, which part of a town is it. So, but it's still a lot of insurances. We do have a membership plan. We do have self-pay patients, but yes, you can do it with the PPO insurances. You do have to have the right PPO plan, and yes, you can do it. And that's where a bunch of appointments comes in, and all of the supporting systems of preventing no-shows, having a high collections, having a co-pays all collected. If you take a PPO plan, I will just say, if you take a PPO plan, your collections on a day of service should be 98% or more. So that's how you really, by maximizing all of the supporting systems, you can have an office that is very profitable, even taking a PPO insurances.
Excellent. Well, thank you for such an engaging program. I know you can't see your audience. They're out there. It's not just a black box. We had great participation tonight. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for inviting me. And just thank you for working with me, Jim. And thank you for inviting. And just thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with the world so people can have better lives and maybe, have a healthier lives and stay healthy. Yeah,
if I was a dentist or hygienist, I would want to come work for you. I don't want to burn out either. Nicole and I are burned out. Let's put it that way. So we'll come work for you. We'll figure it out somehow.
You work a lot. You work a lot.
All right, so I'm going to...
Yes, you work a lot. And
yeah, my boss isn't here to hear that. Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Dr. Catherine Alderman, this is a great program. There's my email address. Thank you so much for engaging with us. If you want to learn more about our future programs, what I ask you to do is join the CareStack Champions Facebook group. We're not big on blasting people with email, just like you kind of heard a moment ago. This is opt-in. You join the Facebook group, you hear about our upcoming courses. Our next course is a week from today with Allison LaCourciere, and that's going to be on supercharging your clear aligner program. So we hope to see you there. My email's posted if you want to email me about something. Hopefully you scan the QR code to take a demo. And thank you so much, everyone, for participating tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.